in Mandera, and the inter-clan conflict between the Gare and Digodia there in Mandera County has re-emerged once again after gunmen stormed Ramu town. According to the Kenya Red Cross, one casualty was evacuated to Mandera Hospital, but the death toll is yet to be confirmed, as reports indicate that gunmen opened fire indiscriminately. Ian Wafula reports.
In the wee morning hours, residents of Ramu, a small town at the border of Kenya and Ethiopia, woke up to the sounds of gunfire, heavy gunfire. This is said to have gone on for close to 7 hours, with reports of uncertain number of deaths. But according to the Kenya Red Cross, one casualty was transferred to the Mandera hospital.
Heavily armed militia, over hundreds in uniform, military uniform, attacked Ramu. And in a very, in a situation that was indicative of compromise of security, because the security did not come out to respond.
This follows a similar attack on Thursday when armed men attacked the town center, injuring 3 people, whereas Saturday night they attacked a truck that was entering the town and killed 1 person, injuring 3 others. But these series of events are just but a fraction of the bigger picture, an inter-clan conflict that has lingered on for years between the Gare and Digodia. Security analyst retired Major Bashir Abdullahi says the recent attacks trace their genesis from the Wajir clashes. Wajir County is largely dominated by Digodia, while the Gare arguably form the majority in Mandera County, a factor that has been reflected in the political representation in both counties. When clashes began 2 months ago in Wajir, the Gare residing in the county were mostly affected. Bashir says most of whom sought refuge in Wajir County were taken to Ramu in Mandera County, a town said to be equally dominated by both communities.
So here you have a situation whereby a population has moved from another county, affected by insecurity, coming to Ramu where tensions are already high. So you find a number of people, the population of Ramu is too high. It has never been like this. So once you have this population coming in, these people will ask for land, will ask for resources, will ask for work on so many things.
The inter-clan conflict has seemingly slowed down development in the 2 counties, with devolution of funds and resources falling second to political battles.
We don't have a strong relationship. Whenever we launch our complaints, whenever there is something that needs, it's always being pushed behind. We never sorted out immediate. There's no immediate action that we get from the county government.
All the time, whenever national security is being there, we assume and we believe that they favor the community of Gare.
All the leadership of these communities, both the Gare, the Digodia, to get to understand that these communities coexisted over 50 years without having any conflict. This situation is achievable. Remove politics out of it, and peace should come unconditionally.
The route to peace at times is not easy, but once it is reached, people will see the fruits of development.
Ian Wafula, KTN.
And indeed, a sad state of affairs, of a perennial conflict that seems to have no end in sight. And John Alanamu is still with me to just give us some perspective on this. This happens year after year, from last year into this year. The attacks come up, they slow down, come up again, and then things go quiet. What would the permanent solution be, and why can't that be found?
Well, in terms of the perennial nature of the attacks, especially after the 2013 election, that became exacerbated by the political situation. As Ian Wafula said in his story, the fact that the Digodia are a majority in Wajir and the Gare are a majority in Mandera, and the leadership reflects that in both of these counties, that shows that there's going to be a bit of a conflict in terms of the resources, in terms of access, and that, of course, will spin into an actual physical contest. But the reason why it's also so perennial is because that area has never been demilitarized. Both the Gare and the Digodia have militia groups that operate within that area and can be activated like that, with contributions funded mainly by people from Nairobi. So that the attacks don't just have a very local aspect to them. There's also a regional aspect to them in terms of the people who support them. and the fact that a lot of these fighters also come from across the border, but they have linkages to the people on the ground.
So it's a political thing. Of course, that's what's exacerbated it, like you said. What can the government do in terms of that? Because just the fact that it's political doesn't mean that the government can't put a stop to what's going on there.
No, and that's true, Yvonne. And the government should know that they should be able to step up and be able to play an important role in, if not bringing these two sides to the table, at least stopping the fighting there. To say that the government is absent from Lamu is a misnomer, from Ramu, beg your pardon, is a misnomer. The military is there. All of the units of the government in terms of the police and security are down in Ramu and down in Mandera. Why haven't they been able to stop the fighting? Again, the reason goes back to how heavily militarized these two militia groups are, to the extent that an open conflict for them could be tougher to resolve than people think.
Indeed. Some pertinent questions then. We'll continue to follow this, and we thank you for being with us and giving us insights on this. We are looking forward to the inside story on what happened in Lamu, and the two are not to be confused. There is Lamu and there is Ramu in Mandera County. We will see you again shortly at 9:30, so do make a point of staying with us for that. The Killers Corridor is coming your way in this bulletin, so do stay tuned for that. Let's move away from those matters and to matters of referendum politics. Deputy President William Ruto has warned governors allied to the Jubilee coalition against what he called being misused by the opposition coalition court to distract and destabilize the government's work. Meanwhile, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero has urged those calling for a referendum to explore other constitutional options to solve the issues that have been raised.
The No Referendum team moved to Bomet County Sunday, the home of Governor's Council Chairman Isaac Ruto. And Deputy President William Ruto did not mince his words, cautioning Jubilee governors not to be hoodwinked by the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy in the pretext that CORD were pushing for more funding to the counties.
Ile tuliongeza from 15% mpaka ile 190 billion kulikuwa na referendum. Ile tuliongeza kuanzia mwaka ujao mpaka mwaka huu kulikuwa na referendum. Sasa mnatuambia tuone referendum tufanye kitu gani? Si tuketi chini tukubaliane. Halafu ile inawezekana tufanye.
The Deputy President warned the governors allied to his coalition that by pushing for a referendum, they will be championing other CORD agenda.
Anatuambia kwa sababu alianguka kura tubadilishe katiba tuondoe IBC.
Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto was at pains to explain his intentions as well as his relationship with the Jubilee hierarchy.
Na tuache kutusiana na kusema maneno ya uongo. Mimi sijaungana na CORD, mimi ni Jubilee.
Expectedly, all leaders present dismissed all calls for a referendum as a waste of time and resources. Senator Kipchumba Murkomen choosing to applaud MCAs for opting not to support the call for a referendum.
I want to tell the MCAs, your dreams are valid. Because the MCAs wa kwanza walisema we will not go to referendum until we consult everybody, including the president.
In Western Kenya, CORD leader Raila Odinga was relentless, drumming up support for the referendum. The former Prime Minister has accused the Jubilee government of using threats against governors.
Gavana unatishwa toka huko. Nimesema gavana ana kura moja tu. Hata kama wewe umemtisha ametoka, lakini watu wake wamebaki. Si umefanya kazi bure.
Odinga also criticized Jubilee over their efforts to prevent members of county assemblies from being in the referendum bandwagon.
Ati Rais Uhuru atapata nyinyi grant ya magari, si atapata nyinyi. Unaweza kuhonga watu MCAs, lakini huwezi kuhonga wafuasi yao.
Treasurer kwa kanisa 1000.
Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero is, however, leaving his options a bit more open. Kidero has said there is need to explore other options other than the referendum to address problems facing Kenyans.
Going to the two houses, the Senate and the National Assembly. If it's passed there, if the bill is passed there, then probably it's not necessary to go for a referendum. Referendum is the last one.
Pressure has been mounting on the county bosses, especially the ones allied to Jubilee, to disown the referendum. But is Jubilee also eating away at CORD's numerical advantage at the Council of Governors? Ben Kitili, KTN.
Right, so amidst all that political rhetoric, let's understand the process now of a referendum should it come to that. Now, the Constitution of Kenya can be amended in two ways, by parliamentary initiative or through popular initiative. Now, as you know, court has chosen the popular initiative route as outlined in Article 257 of the Constitution. Well, they are now in phase 1, and that is that of collecting signatures. They must collect at least 1 million signatures for the process to begin. But here is what lies ahead in the process. Now, once the proponents have gathered the required signatures, they are to deliver the draft bill together with the signatures to the IEBC, who must then verify the signatures as bona fide registered voters. This is where the county assemblies come in and play a key role, and as you saw, they are being wooed at the moment. The Electoral Commission must then submit the draft to each of the county assemblies within 3 months of receiving it. The county assemblies then debate the draft bill, and should they approve it, then they pass it on to the speakers of both houses of parliament together with a certificate of approval. Parliament, on the other hand, cannot drag its feet. Once the bill gets approval from 24 or more counties, it must be tabled on the floor of the House without delay. The bill is considered passed if it is supported by a majority of the members in both houses. From here, it follows the well-known procedure of submission to the President for assent into law, thereby granting the proponents their wish. However, if either house fails to pass the bill, then it is submitted to the people in a referendum for them to decide. So we'll wait to see how this process carries on. Important to understand that in all of the rhetoric that's going on. Right, we want to now switch gears into a story of courage and selflessness. Now, this is the story of a young lady called Rehema Kanini, who lost her life while trying to save another. Rehema donated her kidney to an uncle who urgently needed one, only to develop complications that led to her demise. And as Sharon Mamanyi now reports, Rehema's case is not common, as close to 90% of kidney transplant procedures are a success.
19th of August 2014, songs fill the air at the Gekoi Community Church in Moranga. It is the burial of Rehema Winnie Kanini. And it is not just a burial, but a celebration of a life lost in the most heroic way, while saving another.
She told me, Mom, you know, I want to donate this kidney to my uncle and then proceed on with my life. No, I thought it is this life down here. Now I'm just seeing the kind of life that God was showing her.
In mid-last year, Rehema's uncle was diagnosed with kidney malfunction, a condition which required an urgent transplant. A frantic search for a suitable donor by the family ended when Rehema readily offered to donate hers. Tests revealed she was a perfect match.
In a day and age where it's a man-eat-man society, it's good to know that there's still hope in humanity through the selfless act of one person.
Rehema's family had earlier lost their father to heart failure in 2013. It pained Rehema that none of them could do anything to save their father. This time, she told her family, she was not going to let her uncle die, not when she could help it.
She was one who exactly lived her name: compassion and mercy.
Life should be an inspiration to many of us. You know, help out someone, give something that you can.
The kidney transplant procedure, which took place in India, was successful. But 3 days later, Rehema developed complications that led to her sudden death. She was 29 years old. And as the flower that is Rehema's life is put to rest, she remains alive in her uncle, who is recuperating well in India. According to Dr. Anthony Were, head of Kenyatta National Hospital's renal unit, Rehema's was an unfortunate case, as hers is the only reported death of a kidney donor since the procedure started being undertaken in Kenya in 1988.
Rehema's is a story of utter selflessness and bravery. The risk of the grave, which now houses her remains, would not deter her from choosing to save a life. She's laid right next to her father's grave, the death of her father being the one that pushed her to not sit back while she could save another life.
Being a major surgery, there is a risk to it, and the risk is 1 in 10,000 cases of transplantation, one mortality. And that's what's recorded in developed countries like Britain, the US, and other developed countries. But this is a very, very small risk indeed. Unfortunately, in Kenya, no donor has ever suffered.
Trufena and Titus smile away as they reminisce their 14-year journey since Trufena successfully donated her kidney to her brother.
I had kidney failure in the year 1999. That is when I was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure.
I decided to donate my kidney when I saw the way my brother was suffering. I just wanted to help him. There were no complications. Yeah, the operation went on well, and I have not experienced any complications since then.
Up to 4 million Kenyans are suffering from kidney diseases. With transplants being the surest way of cure, Dr. Were assures that it is a safe procedure. Thus, people can courageously, just like Rehema and Trufena, give a kidney and give a life. Sharma Manyi, KTN.
It is indeed the ultimate sacrifice, and we do hope that Sharon has given you hope. Not every sacrifice ends up like in that story. Do give a life. Indeed, very moving there from Sharon Momanyi. I want to take a short break right now, but there is lots more coming your way after this short break. Stay with us. We thank you for staying with us on KTN Weekend Prime. Let's take you to our weekly segment on the environment. And tonight we turn our attention to Meru. Now, with fairly adequate rainfall, the Meru region has over the years been agriculturally productive. But things are slowly changing due to climate change and unsustainable farming methods. We now join Rita Tinina on Eco Journal.
For many hikers, the steep slopes of Meru would provide for an awesome challenge. But to farmers here, the slopes offer a totally different kind of a challenge. Add the landscape to changing weather patterns and unsustainable farming methods, and farmers in this agriculturally rich region are having to change tact.
Farmers, they have no knowledge and skills for the modern ways of farming. And at the same time, in terms of the soils, I think the soils are they have been over-farmed.
Meet Janet Naitore on her 2-acre shamba. A few years back, there was only coffee, tree seedlings and bananas growing here.
Sasa ile ambelani tulikuwa tumepanda twingine, unaona hii inaitwa kampara, hatukujua the techniques of planting, tulikuwa tumesimba simo ndefu, hakuna borea, na hiyo tulikuwa tukitumia nyumbani, na twingine tunausia brokers kidogo tu kama 150.
Now this shamba has undergone its own version of a makeover thanks to training on sustainable ways of farming.
Randef wakanifereka training. Tukaenda training, tukakaa huko Meru county, tukakaa wiki moja, tulifundisha mambo mengi sana.
We have been training farmers on modern ways of farming, and we have been doing that through exchange visit where we take them to Nyeri, Embu and within Meru and Tharaka County.
Following the training, Naitore began by changing her banana farming methods.
Tuliona ya kupanda na teknisi nyingi, ingine ya kuweka mbolea, kama unaona mbolea hii tumeweka kwa sababu hii mizizi inakula ikiwa juu, na kupanda kama mandisi matatu unapanda kama moja hapa, ingine hapa na ingine hapo. Si kwa raini.
Now she is enjoying the fruits of her labor quite literally. With the modern techniques of growing bananas, Naitore is among the leading banana farmers in the Katimbi area of Meru County. Her banana plantation serves more than one purpose.
Ukipanda mandisi juu inaweka kiburi na tunaweka misha chini ya mandisi.
And that is just half the story. Naitore's shamba is on a steep slope. She has dug terraces, enabling her to farm on the land that would otherwise have been lying idle. From coffee, tomatoes to butternuts, various crops thrive here. Some of her neighbors are yet to take the plunge into farming along the slopes, their land still lying idle as Naitore comes up with innovative ways of farming along the terraces. She further utilizes the available land through intercropping.
Na huko chini ya kahawa tunapanda butternut, tunapanda tomato. Kama saa hii tukinyunyusia hizo tomato maji, hata hiyo kahawa inakunywa maji hiyo. To harvest 3 times instead of 1.
She bid farewell to modern fertilizer. She makes her own organic manure using materials available in her shamba.
Parent tulikuwa tukitumia fertilizer na iko na bei ya juu sana. Sasa tukaona instead, kwa sababu techniques tumejua, tujitengenezea mbolea sisi wenyewe na inakaa. Kwanza tunaona inakaa sana. Na inakaa tukiwa kama ndizi inakaa. Na hata tomato unaona bila iko mzuri kwa hiyo mbolea.
On this farm, nothing goes to waste, even dry leaves.
Kipanda kama ni tomato hapa, kwa ile nyingine tunaweka dry leaves kwa sababu tulitini water and also even to prevent soil erosion.
Other farmers like Morris Mwiti are also taking the cue. On his small piece of land, he is practicing sustainable, eco-friendly mixed farming with coffee, fruits, goats and poultry.
Bila tulifunzwa nikaona tu ukulima wa kahawa una maana kuliko kupanda mahindi na maragwe, kwa sababu ukilima kahawa vizuri unaweza kununua maragwe na mahindi.
With fairly adequate rainfall throughout the year, farmers in parts of Meru are facing a different challenge. But with the farmers now adopting sustainable farming methods in the steep slopes of Meru, they are putting their land to good use, increasing their productivity. Rita Tinina, KTN, Central Imenti, Meru County.
Time for the sports news. Let's start off with defending Safaricom National 7th Circuit KCB, who suffered their first defeat of the season in Homeboyz' hands while surrendering the Driftwoods 7th title. Homeboyz, on the other side, made it their first main cup win of the season, but remained second in the league standings behind the Bankers.
After winning all its group matches on day one of the Driftwood 7th, KCB was the team to beat as competition entered day 2 at the Mombasa Sports Club. The Bankers booked a final slot against Homeboyz and the match lived up to its billing. KCB were the first to draw first blood through Jacob Oje try that was not converted. Homeboyz did not relent and continued to assert themselves, eventually scoring through Leonard Mugaisi after Alvin Otieno's spade work. Mike Wanjala converted for a 7-5 score. KCB bounced back, forcing an error off the DJs, with Ken Musetti scoring and converting to make it 12-7. Augustine Lugonzo pounced on a loose ball, touching down to put Homeboyz ahead, heading into halftime and makes scores 14-12. Augustine Lugonzo pounced on a loose ball, touching down to put Homeboyz ahead, heading into halftime. The scores at 14-12. Fabian Orlando's try came in too late for the Bankers. It was KCB's first defeat after the impressive performance at the Kabeberi 7th and the Dallas 7th circuits. Homeboyz, on the other side, got their first main cup win of the season, and we go into the last 2 legs of the circuit, buoyed by their Driftwoods win in Mombasa.
It was breathtaking, but I owe it all to the players because they were one man down. But their discipline paid off, the perseverance and also their teamwork. Yeah.
We still plan to be top of the table till the circuit ends. That's all I can say.
Driftwoods defending champions KCB suffered their first defeat of the season at the Driftwoods 7th here at the Mombasa Sports Club, but still remain edge top of the standings going into the last 2 legs. That is the Prinsloo 7th in Nakuru and Christie 7th in Nairobi. Lynn Washira, KTN.
The East Africa girls basketball defending champions Shimba Hills from the coast began their title defense with a 56-48 win over Kibuli from Uganda. Victor Gale reports from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
The 13th edition of the Brookside East Africa Secondary School Bowl Games got underway at the Dar es Salaam International Stadium on a positive start as girls national and regional basketball defending champions Shimba Hills began their title defense with a 56-48 win over Chibuli Senior Secondary School from Uganda. In volleyball, Kenya also dominated the Souths when Malava boys played Lias de Nyanza from Rwanda in the men's volleyball clash that ended 3-1 in favor of the Kenya national champions. In basketball, girls, St. Mary's Chitende beat Tigoi from Kenya by 58 points to 28. On Monday, Friends School Kamusinga take on Budo from Uganda in their first basketball encounter as Cheptil take on Mwembeladu from Zanzibar. Kenyan teams began the East Africa School Games on a high note as most of them registered wins in their various competitions. On Monday, more action is expected here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania as the games enter its second day. Victor Ogale, KTN at the Dar es Salaam National Stadium, Tanzania.